Hey guys, Whitney here and welcome to TEFLPros. On today's call, I sat down with one of our recent grads, Chris. And Chris, he has an interesting story to share. So he actually started his TEFL while he was in college. And he shares in this interview that he attended a seminar on the JET program, which hires Americans to teach in Japan. And that inspired him. And from that moment, it's like, okay, I'm going to get TEFL certified and start down this journey and hopefully go on the JET program down the road. So if you're in college, if you've been thinking, okay, should I consider getting TEFL certified? I think you'll enjoy listening about Chris's experience. So sit back, relax, and enjoy listening to this short interview with Chris about his experience on the TEFLPros Plus course. Hey, Chris.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for joining me today on a call. First off, congrats on graduating from the course.
Thank you.
It's a lot of work to go through it. So hope that you had that little sigh of relief now, like, okay, I've made it through that process. Come out the other end. So if you could, Chris, we like to just offer people some information, kind of walk them through the journey that you've been on as you've been, searching for your TEFL course, getting TEFL certified, coming out the other end as a graduate. So if we were to kind of go back in time a bit, could you just share with us where you were at prior to taking the course?
Prior to TEFLPros, I didn't really have any teaching experience, and I was in my last 2 years of college, and I was still like pretty confused about what I wanted to do afterwards. But having worked with a few mentors and some of my teachers, like really changed my view on like what teachers do and like the impact they had on my life at the time. And I wanted to have the same impact that they had on me on other students.
That's wonderful. That's a great motivation for getting into a field like teaching that is very service oriented. So you had that motivation just reflected in your own experience as a student, and you didn't have any prior teaching experience. Did you have any goal in mind that was also propelling you forward?
I had after this one class a JET seminar that kind of gave us like all the ins and outs and like all the wonders of traveling and teaching abroad. That like really like sparked I don't know, got my neurons firing or something. That like being like having learned or taken 2 years of Japanese language courses really interested me in traveling abroad and teaching. And at that point, that was the goal that I set myself on.
All right. So now you've ticked TEFL off the list. So you're going to start that application process soon, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, so, you've got that point, that starting point of like, all right, I've heard about this program called JET. It sounds exciting, sounds really cool. You're still in college, no teaching experience yet. So what was the process like for you, Chris, of, researching and trying to figure out like, okay, what do I want out of a training program?
Having been in COVID, or going to college for my last years in COVID, it had to be online. And I had actually been recommended a few places that I had from a coworker that I had been interning under, who also had worked at JET and had taken online TEFL courses. And I went through a few of the lists, and TEFLPros had a preview demonstration from their 5th lesson. And I think that's kind of what sold me, as I was very familiar with the format of the lesson planning from my previous schooling.
Oh, okay. So you could kind of look at it from a learner's perspective and see similarities to what you'd gone through. That's neat.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Now, when you made that transition though to like starting the course and diving in and actually going through the material now as a teacher in training, what was that experience like for you, Chris? Does anything stand out in your mind? I know Chris just graduated, guys, so this is very fresh take on his part. So what kind of stands out to you as you went through that process, Chris?
Being able to see from going from learning about a lesson to planning that lesson or understanding the ins and outs of that particular lesson and then seeing it demonstrated in a real class scenario was really, really interesting. And I'm trying to think as it was really, I'm at a loss for words, honestly.
It's fine. So those classroom observation videos, is that what you're pointing to?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, we find that, yeah, I don't know, when I even think back for myself as a brand new teacher, it was often difficult to connect the dots between my lesson plan and like all the hard work that I poured into that. And then you get into the classroom and it's like, all these other things start clicking in your head of like, well, how do I actually implement this plan? So the hope there, of course, is that those classroom observation videos help you start connecting some of those dots.
Mhm.
Yeah. Was there anything else on the course that was helpful to you or kind of worth mentioning here?
Having worked nights, it was really helpful to have recordings of the coaching calls and really, well, I'm not one for, uh, it's difficult for me to come up with questions because I'm not sure what I need to know or like what I want to know or need to know. But having all the other perspectives of other students to bounce off of, even though I'm not there, is really helpful because they have questions that I didn't know I already had.
That's a good point. Yeah. I I can relate to that. I am like, if I'm in a classroom, I'm like the introvert, like that doesn't want to raise their hand. So I always kind of get more out of just hearing other people's questions. I'm glad to hear that you followed along with those. And got to hear those recordings that we send out after each call. That's great. That's great. Um, Anything else that you want to share about that, Chris?
Other than that, the step by step, I guess I'm like, would it be brick and mortar when you had these step by step lesson plannings where you just wrote on paper? That was really helpful to me.
Oh, okay.
More so than I don't know why, more so than seeing it demonstrated on a computer. Just something about it.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. So what Chris is referring to is that as you're going through the lesson planning process on the course, you learn about lesson planning, like the steps for whatever that skill needs to go through. And then we give you a prompt and kind of do some lesson planning together through some video content. And some of those videos show you using a digital example. So like a screen recording of, going through, typing in, filling out that form. And some of them are literally pen to paper, writing it out, drawing little diagrams and things like that. So you are actually a fan of my bad drawing. That's
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing, Chris.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, I'm glad. There's also lots of bad drawing on coaching calls as well. If people are interested, lots of little diagrams. All right, well, that's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts. The last thing that I always like to ask folks is, if you had someone come up to you and they're like, I don't know, Chris, I'm still on the fence about whether or not I need to get a TEFL certification or if I should do it. Maybe they're nervous about what comes after it with teaching abroad or teaching online. What advice would you give them?
If you're like me, I think if you have the time and the money and the support group, I think just go for it because having this like experience is priceless, honestly. And you should just go for it if you can afford the time.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Chris.